People can make movies and be recognized their whole life, but this small person from this tiny town could make one movie and be better than them automatically. You need to not look at it like as in a competition. This won't put you on the right path, because this industry, yes, it's a whole competition, we can say, but it isn't between us. It's between us and the public.
Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here.
How's it going, man? Happy to be back.
No, it shouldn't be about anything. Like, this is one life.
Yep, one life? Like, fucking do it.
My guy.
But she just got it. She totally understood it.
20 years old when I started just watching a lot of movies.
And it tells a story. I want to tell a story.
Talented filmmaker, videographer, Theo Cliche. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Thanks for having me. It's super fun.
Thank you. Thanks for being part of this podcast. You know, this is what I do, bringing on creatives to discuss their journeys, their experiences thus far in their career. As we know, it's a very challenging one. At times, it could be very elusive. But we do it because we're passionate about the craft. Would you say the same for yourself?
Yes. I mean, I haven't had I haven't got the time yet to fully explore everything that's around that art. I fully am passionate about it. I love everything about it right now. I'm fully immersed in it, and I just want to see what else I can do.
That's awesome, man. Well, like I said, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. My close friend Tyler Seller recommended we speak together upon his memorable interaction with you at Igloo Fest in Montreal. How was that, by the way? How's the experience going so far? I've never been myself.
Igloo's really fun. For the people that don't know, it's pretty much a huge festival about music, EDM, electro music, and everything. It's in the winter, in the cold. There's tons of people coming here. Many people from all around the world come. It's a really fun experience.
That's awesome, man. Well, we're all about entertainment, right? That's why we're part of this business. So it's another medium, right?
Yes.
So you can't deny it. So that's awesome, man. I'm great to hear. Tyler explained to me that you're a highly creative individual who is actually pursuing a career in filmmaking through writing and directing. And he was actually sharing a story with me that while you were working at the festival, you were even writing your own scripts. Is that actually true, man? You're writing?
Yeah, I was multitasking because I'm working on this new project, and I don't really have the time because it's cool and everything. And I had time between my shifts, which for the people that are watching, I work as a mascot for the festival. So in between the times I was putting on my suit, I was writing my scenario for my next project.
That's awesome, man. Well, that's true hustler. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just going after it.
It was something, but it's going well. The scenario is almost over. We got it.
No, I love that, man. It reminds me a lot like myself. You know, when every opportunity I get, I need to keep myself more accountable now. I'm trying to get back into the swing of things with writing, but that's what we do as storytellers, right? We're always writing down notes or takeaways or
because you never know when the idea is gonna.
Yeah, you don't know when the idea is gonna summon itself, right? Often it happens in the shower. That's actually not a cliche. It does happen in the shower.
It does. For some reason, it's
well, the mind's at rest, right? You're kind of just focused on the moment. You're for once relaxed, I guess. But yeah, I love that notion. I love that you have that hustle mentality. That's good on you.
It's a great thing to have. Everyone should have that.
Everyone should have it, right? Especially in this day and age, highly competitive, right?
Yeah.
It's the best way. It's the best time to be alive in a way, right? To get exposed, to get known, right? So I love that.
It's a perfect time to be alive.
100%. So again, as creatives, so upon hearing this information, I was immediately gratified by the similarity you and I both share in our arduous creative endeavors, right? Very challenging paths. As a filmmaker from Toronto who hosts this inclusive platform for ambitious individuals like yourself, I'm constantly fascinated by the stories that led to those following their daring dreams. You know what I mean? And the environment that surrounds them. And, picking up on your accent, and I was introduced that you were from Montreal.
Yeah.
We live from different cities, right? Big cities in Canada, but I feel like it plays an influence, and I kind of want to know more about that. Before I get into that though, what made you decide to become a filmmaker?
It was really at first I always loved the whole filmmaking industries. I always found it really complicated. At the same time, it was really beautiful for me. And as I kept reading books about movies, about how they were made, where they were made, I was watching episodes on, for example, old episodes about Harry Potter's creator, the movie creators, how they thought of the idea, how they thought of putting a movie, turning it from a book and transforming it into one of the biggest movies of all time. And I just decided that I wanted to be one of those people that have an idea in their mind and transform it into a beautiful piece of art, which is cinema.
Yeah, and that's honestly the hardest part. Just kind of like getting
Yes.
whatever's in the mind onto paper, like articulating
Getting it out.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then
Because sometimes you'll have like a clear idea in your mind,
yeah,
but you go on to write it, and it just doesn't want to come out.
yeah. I thought I was the only one, but that's the biggest challenge. I don't know
is.
about your methods, but I use music to kind of like have that creativity kind of flow naturally out of me. But I know a lot of people have different remedies, how to get those ideas on paper. Anything for yourself that you can advise?
I mean, music is really good. I feel like
Yeah.
you put yourself some calm music, you get yourself in the right mind, and it'll just come right out. And everybody's gonna have different things. I have friends that they like writing at night before going to sleep. Some of them like in the morning. It really varies on people, but for me, I think music has also been the main thing that I found that's been helping me a lot.
Yeah, for sure. It's a universal language. Like we all know the powers behold it.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely serves as an inspiration and a catalyst to get those creative ideas out in the world. So I'm really happy to hear that too, about like how you adapted the material, like, or how you were, I guess, fascinated by how people would adapt stories from different mediums into cinema, right? Because cinema is like a collection of all these different art forms, if you think about it, right?
Yeah, and it's people that pick ideas from each other and transform them into their own, which is what makes it so beautiful, that people can mix up all many ideas and put it up as one big one. So that's what really like fascinates me about it.
That's awesome. And bringing it back to like, the fact that you're from Montreal. I'm not sure if you were born and raised, but I know that
fully.
Yes. Okay, great. So born and raised from Toronto, right? So like we can understand what the city means to us, right? What a city like you've grown up with, you've been surrounded with all your life, how personal it becomes. And I want to know from you, like, how challenging do you find the market in Montreal when developing, screening, and funding your own films?
It's one of the things that I find the hardest is putting it out there, because Montreal, a lot of people don't necessarily have like that much interest in the whole industry as other cities. But what I find, I feel like our people's talent, because I know a lot of people that have crazy talent but haven't been getting recognized enough.
Yeah,
I feel like it's only a certain like group of people that are all interested in this thing, and putting your stuff out there is really hard. But I feel like once you get to a certain level, then you're fine, because everybody around that city knows you. It's a whole it's a whole group of people that all know each other, work together, and climbing up the scales of like being known in the city, you could say, is what could make you pop out of like the rest. That because that's everyone's goal, to show out.
Yeah, to be distinguished from the rest, like to stand out.
Rest.
So exactly. You believe it to be like a cult like market, where it's like you have to be in the know to be kind of
I feel like you have Montreal is a really competitive city. There's a lot of like big challenges you have to surface, and a lot of people that you have to work with to climb up the scales. It's like, for example, me speaking to Tyler, getting this opportunity to speak with you, it's something that me maybe not working to Igloo would have never happened. So it's always about opportunities and taking them, because Montreal is a place where there's hundreds and hundreds of opportunities. It's a beautiful place to begin filmmaking, because many beautiful places to record. There's a lot of different people, different languages. It's a beautiful place to start your career.
No, for sure. There's no denying that, right? Montreal is a very artistic city. I've been multiple times, and I just revere it for its own qualities, for sure. But at the same time, like, Toronto has become more of a film hub. Have you been visiting Toronto? Have you ever been?
I've been a couple of times, mainly for basketball games, of course.
Right. The Raptors, like, you're a Raptors fan?
Yeah, I dabble in basketball. I'm not like the biggest fans, but I would often go like once or twice a year. I would go to a game, and looking at the city, it's a really beautiful city as well.
Yeah,
has a lot of similarities with Montreal about like the people there and how it's made and the looks of it. So it has to be another cool city that I would like to like maybe partake in a project there.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Like, this is the place to be if you're coming up as a filmmaker. Like, again, I respect Montreal. They're pretty prominent in their own respects. but I know Toronto, really impressed and proud that for the last like a few decades, it's substantially.
Toronto is definitely
status.
one of the biggest cities in Canada on this subject for sure.
Yeah, right. The Americans love filming here too, right? We get a lot of productions going on around the city and abroad, right? But at the same time, the way I look at it, it doesn't really matter where you're from, kind of thing. Like obviously, it can serve as an advantage. But it really resides in the individual and how creative and how talented or just how tenacious they can be in pursuing their craft. Would you believe the same for yourself?
I mean, I think that it, as you said, it never depends on where you were born. It doesn't decide automatically where you're going to be in the future. I think, yes, it can help if you were born in places like obviously in the US, big places, in big cities. Like we're lucky to be born in places like Montreal and Toronto that are like that provide us with many opportunities. But I think that if you want something and you decide that maybe you look out for opportunities to go elsewhere, which is what I want to in the future, I think it's something that anybody can do and achieve.
Yeah, that's very well said, right? Like I said, there's advantages. I'm not denying that. Like, thank God that we were born in Toronto, Montreal, as opposed to like a farm town.
Exactly.
But I just feel like with the social media age, like look at how we're connecting. It's just a trickle effect, one person after the next. People have been networking since the dawn of time, but it's on a different scale, right? Now that we have phones and Instagram, I just sent you a DM and was like, "Yo, you want to be on the podcast?" Boom, right? And even the platform itself, right? The podcast. Like, again, I brought it up before. It allows me the opportunity to speak with creative individuals because everyone's busy. Everyone has their own schedules, but it gives me that excuse to have a conversation, an hour, sit down, pick their brain, see where their mind's at, and how I can learn from them as much as my audience learns from them.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing to have like the whole technological world that helps us connect to each other, because being from two completely, well, they're close, we could say, but like two completely different cities, and getting the opportunity to connect with each other for a bit of time is always great.
That's awesome. Yeah. So a big thing that I discuss with my fellow creatives and colleagues, because I used to have a job back in Los Angeles. I would connect with filmmakers there, and they would argue the fact that you got to be here if you want to make it. Like, this is the hub, this is the place, this is the entertainment capital. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, but like, you don't understand. Back to the conversation we're having, the topic is social media. It'll grant me those opportunities. If I really need to go there, I'll move there, whatever. I want to know from you, like, how has living in Montreal granted you the opportunities to pursue your creative passions? And do you desire to move elsewhere eventually, or stay where you are?
It's definitely like moving elsewhere has been in my mind. But being in Montreal is, I think right now, one of the best things that could happen to me. Being born and raised here, I know a lot about the city, know how to get things that I want,
how to navigate
movies. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think I want to try and go elsewhere to film stuff. I don't want to like go there and live there necessarily, but I think exploring other places to film and to get to know more people, to like navigate myself through the industry, is definitely in my mind. Yes.
That's awesome. I feel it, man. Toronto's your next stop.
Yeah.
I see it right now, getting a message. Yo, I'm in the city.
It's definitely in my mind.
Well, you're always welcome here. Like, definitely would love to meet you in person. That's something I should note about this podcast. Most of my guests I don't even meet in person.
Yeah,
I've never met before in my life. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy.
It's definitely a thing that I want to do. Move somewhere for a while, work on a project. The two places in my mind right now are like Toronto, obviously.
Yeah.
And in the summer, for an exchange program with my school, I'm going to Vancouver. Probably.
Awesome.
So
Great.
that would be a place where I would probably be there for a month, work on a project, and see how it turns out.
Yeah, that's great, man. Those are the two most opportune cities for the filmmaking world. So yeah, you're definitely on the right track. And I'm happy that you're not kind of full out just moving out of the house like, I'm gonna do it, like like thrusting yourself.
Yeah,
you're easing into it, and that's smart, because you want to know for yourself. Like, it's a different age. Back then we all had to move to LA, right? Let's be honest, we wanted to make it.
Oh yeah. But
we can create our stories and create meaningful pieces of content that can get recognized from anywhere we live, right? With the smartphones that we have, or the reasonably priced cameras that are affordable. So like, yeah, it's possible. But I should mention too, it also matters like the story you want to tell, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's like, don't move just to move. Like, what are your stories centered on, right? Like, what are they, like small farm town stories? Like, okay, maybe you have to move to like Paris Sound, or are they stories maybe about living in the big city, right? Or the inner city, like lifestyle, right? Like for me, a lot of the stories that I write have a backdrop of the city or the suburban neighborhood. So I have that advantage from Toronto and the greater Toronto area, which I reside. So yeah, that's definitely something any filmmaker or creative should assess.
Definitely. I think for me, living in Montreal right now is again a perfect situation to start or maybe even keep being in.
Yeah.
But if I were to look into maybe moving, if I were to get the opportunity to move somewhere where it'll be like better situation for me, as in Toronto, Vancouver, or LA, for example, I think I'd have to think about it, but eventually it might lead me to it, because obviously you always want what's the best for your career. And having a story of how you were born and raised in a city where you made your own movie, which became popular in that city, could be also an interesting idea for anyone.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well put. And, you know, as a testament to your passion for telling captivating stories, you sent me your most recent short film called Sans Toi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing
you actually got it. It's perfect.
Perfect. Great. I'm so happy because you know, being Canadian, as fellow Canadians listening to this know, we have to learn French until grade 9. So thank you. I take pride in my pronunciation.
No, it was really good. Don't worry about it.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. So the entire film was completely in French dialogue, and given my lack of education in the language, as I just previously mentioned, I did not understand a word of it. I'll be honest with you. However, great filmmakers like ourselves understand that it is a visual medium, which stimulates and engages the viewer, not just by the use of sounds or words, but by the use of sight and perception. And after viewing the short film you sent over to me, I was able to gauge from your visual storytelling that it was about a musician trying to make his break in the industry. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but how would you describe the story in Sans Toi, and what does this title mean?
You're definitely right on the whole visual part. Like, we've seen it since the dawn of times with the mute films.
Yeah.
People were watching these, having fun all over them. And I feel like the whole filmmaking industry isn't about the sound. It's about what you're seeing, obviously.
Of course.
So being able to tell a story through only images and clips is what we all want to achieve. And having the fact that you can almost perfectly gauge what the story is about is what tells me that I almost like I accomplished what I wanted to do about this short film. Because the short film is indeed about an artist that wants to break out but has his own blockages and is trying to push through them to achieve what he wants. And that's exactly what I wanted to know. And I feel like people like you recognizing what it's about without understanding the language, like my friend Tyler, like our friend Tyler saw the movie too, said the same thing, that he couldn't understand because you guys don't forcibly like fully understand French.
Right.
And the fact that you guys understand what it is about only through images, it like tells me that I did pretty well with my work.
No, you did, man. And I'll be honest with you, like full transparency, I was intimidated when you first sent it, because I'm like, oh my God, like I was supposed to give this guy a piece of feedback and I just can't understand it. And then I watched it again, and this time like really like zoned in on it. And I said, okay, well, even if I can't understand the dialogue, let me see if I can understand the visuals, right? Because that's what is a testament to a great storyteller, right? A director, I should say. And I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, like I'm getting a sense of the story, right? Like this is a young man, like, you know, who has a musical talent and he's trying to break into the industry. Like, again, maybe it's not exactly we can't get all the nuances, but I got the gist of it. And that's what I mean by like the power of this medium, if it's told and conveyed correctly. So you've done it. Yeah.
It's an amazing thing that filmmaking can make people like do. We can make people we can tell people stories only by images. And that's what's beautiful about it.
No, absolutely, man. And that's what makes me hooked on this profession, even though sometimes it's so challenging, right?
Oh yeah.
You just want to tell that perfect story. I think that's why we're all in it in a way. Even though there's no such thing as a perfect story, we're all trying to tell that perfect story, whether it's perfect to the audience or to us. But I really feel like we're all after that same kind of lifelong ambition. What with regards to the Sans Toi, like, what is that title? What does it mean exactly? Because I didn't bother looking up the definition. I want to know for my audience as well.
Sans Toi means without you, and the thing in the story is the character that appears in the middle of the movie of the short film, which you guys watching can look at it on my profile. It's definitely tough to understand if you don't understand the language, because you learn that the guy that appears in the middle of the movie is the producer, the guy producing music, his friend that has passed away in the past.
Oh, wow.
And he comes back into his life as in some sort of fever dream and tells him to keep on going. It gives him motivation. The fact that he can see his friend looking at him making his work gives him motivation that'll all lead up to the end part of my short film.
That's beautiful. Yeah, like that's again like.
So yeah, the Sans Toi parts, the without you part means without his friend that we see having an appearance in the middle.
So would you say like this is the kind of driving factor for him to accomplish his dreams?
Yeah, like, seeing him look at him having a presence around him is what drives him towards his goal.
I like that notion too, right? Like speaking on an existential level or spiritual, I should say, we often take for granted our life, right? In the sense of like we get down on our luck, or we feel like the life is happening to us.
Oh, yeah.
But then that notion, right, of a friend passing and like, appearing in a dream, or like just even reflecting on the passing of a loved one, we still have this gift of life. And what are you going to do with it, right? Like he has the advantage of he's still alive.
Yeah,
right?
we're lucky to have it. We're lucky to have it. We need to make use of it.
And that's the beauty again about film, right? Like the way we interpret it. You know what I mean? It's like that's like you just describing that, and like me reflecting on the film, like thinking about it again. It's like, wow, like that's actually beautiful, because that's what film does, right? It captivates each viewer, opens to interpretation, the strong ones.
Oh yeah,
and resonates with everybody differently depending on where they are in their life. Another thing I should mention is that film is powerful in a way where you may watch something like Rocky movies or another classic movie at like 12 and maybe not understand it or feel empowered by it. Try watching it when you're in your 20s, because that's what happened to me. I watched Rocky when I was like a kid, and I was like, okay, whatever. And then when I watched it when I was 25, we felt it, because I'm a kid I'm a young guy that's trying to pursue his dreams, right?
It's perception. It's all about the perception. You can see something, like you can have 100 people the same age, born the same day, even watch the same movie, and you ask them 3 questions about how they felt throughout the movie. All of them will be different. It's always about perception.
And it's all subjective too. That's what we have to keep in mind as filmmakers, right? How many times have we been told, oh, like, I don't get it.
Exactly. People, if they don't get it, it's not that it's bad. It's that they don't have the same perception as you did when you were making that movie. But it doesn't mean also that they don't like it. People can not fully understand the movie, but fully loved it. We had one of our teachers look at this project, and he couldn't understand the meaning of it. Wow. But he fully loved the idea after we explained.
He was impressed by it, even though he couldn't understand
the meaning. By the work, even
he appreciated the work.
Exactly. And it's something that we have to face in this industry that's so hard for us that are
for sure that are behind. Well, because the market decides our success, let's be honest, right? Exactly. It's not a boss, it's not, HR. Like, we don't live in a conventional world. We live in a world where it's deciding, whether the audience takes to it or not. And they can make or break you, unfortunately. The kind of scary, maybe, and relieving thing at the same time, the notion that I'm going to bring up is some films, like It's a Wonderful Life. It's a classic Christmas movie. I don't know if you watched it, Christmas film. James Stewart. When that was released, people don't know this, but for several decades after it became popular, but at the time of its release in 1946, it was panned. Like, a lot of critics didn't like it. It was, they thought it was melodramatic because it was coming off the cusp of the World War II, like the end of it. So a lot of people thought in their eyes it was corny, right? Because they just experienced the darkness and the grittiness of World War II, the drab nature of it, right? So you don't want to really watch like a fun, happy-filled movie, but they kind of miss, like you said, the meaning, like the notion that the director was trying to convey. But what I'm saying is that with our films, like, don't get too discouraged that if the market doesn't understand in the moment, who's to say in 10, 20 years, 100 years, it'll have some significance. Someone
might find the movie and say that's the greatest movie I've ever seen, and then share it to one of his friends that'll share it to 2, to 4, and it ends up being super popular.
Exactly. So I'm glad we're on the same boat about that. I knew I'd like you for that. We have the same mindset, buddy. Now, how has this film, Sans Toi, been received amongst audiences and the industry alike? Like, how's the reception been?
This project was for a film, like a competition, I can say.
Okay, nice.
With a festival, yes.
And what's the name of that?
It's called Kino, Kino.
Perfect.
It's for CGIFs in Quebec that were. It was like a festival. You had 2 weeks to create a 2-minute short film about the theme, which was detour at this time.
Okay.
So me and my friend, who also worked in the majority of the movie as well, worked on this project for the 2 weeks, and luckily we won the movie. So that's
outstanding.
So yeah, that was like, it was my first real challenge, and because I had schoolwork to give out, like projects to do for school, which always it ended up being pretty good. But this movie, I guess it was a really good thing that we won this. It made me feel like this industry was a good choice I made to get into.
No, yeah, for sure. Everyone looks for those pieces of recognition. You know what I mean? Like
the fact that when they named our movie as the winning movie, I was like, okay, this happened. I finally did something that people recognize as.
And I'm so glad you said that it was a winning movie and it was gratifying for yourself, because this brings me to another point about the filmmaking career. Is people share different journeys and you can't judge based on benchmarks. You know what I mean? Like, how old are you, man?
I'm 18.
Holy shit. Okay, so you're I thought you were 20.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm 18. I'm 19
like,
in 4 months.
Man, you're not a baby, you're an infant in the film industry. You know what I mean? Think about that. Like, you're a kid. Like, because I've been
just started.
No, really, like in the filmmaking world, right? Like directors, in their primes are in their like 50s, 40s, whatever. But you and I, man, like we're kids. But my point being is I'm 28 and I've never won a festival, let's say, or a grand competition like yourself. However, I've gotten the recognition that I've sought out to know that I'm on the right path, but I doesn't let that define me. You know what I mean? Because you shouldn't know. What I'm saying is we shouldn't, as filmmakers, compare ourselves and say, oh, but if he won a festival at 18, what am I doing? You know what I mean? It's like,
exactly, because for example, if you would have been to submit your movie to my thing, who would have known? Maybe you would have won. It depends on the circumstances, because maybe if it was another subject, maybe me and my friend wouldn't have won.
For sure.
It's all about, and that's what makes this thing so beautiful, because people can make movies and be recognized their whole life, but this small person from this tiny town could make one movie and be better than them automatically, and nobody will ever know it because he doesn't get recognized for it. It's all about
the audience, right? At the end of the day, it's all about who's watching it, right? Exactly. Who's judging it. But yeah, again, not to detract from your success, I just wanted to point that out for the audience, because a lot of filmmakers listening, and I'm sure you and I, maybe myself too, like we're both guilty of this, where we have those periods where we look at a creative or someone on Instagram and say, oh shit, like they're doing this, like that's crazy. How did they get to that point? But everybody has a separate journey, man. That's all I got to say. And with creatives, it's even more amplified.
You need to not look at it like as in a competition.
Yeah.
Because this will just this won't put you on the right path, because this industry, yes, it's a whole competition, we can say, but it isn't between us. It's between us and the public.
Absolutely. I love that. Our art belongs to us and the people. Yeah.
Yeah, because people we can end up being two different people having, example, you won hundreds of awards and someone has won 2. If you guys work together instead of like having this whole competition between each other, you guys can end up making even better movies.
Yeah, a more meaningful piece of art. Yeah, for sure. Exactly. I love that. Don't treat it like a competition, treat it like a collaboration, right? And that's why I've connected with people like yourself and Tyler, because I've learned very fast, as you know, right? You can't do this alone. This requires a team, an empire.
Oh yeah, for example, my movie, the Sans Toi movie, would never have been able to do it without my friend that helped me through it.
That's awesome.
He knew who to contact. He had contacts at first for the place, for the people. He was a major part in this project, and I couldn't thank him enough.
That's awesome. Shout out to that guy.
Shout out Emil, if you're watching this, thank you very much.
Yes, we have to be great. I'm so inspired the fact that you're like grateful for the people that you work with, right?
Oh, I am so.
You have to be humble. You have to be humble.
They know. I've told them many times, but they have no idea how thankful I am for their help.
That's awesome, man. Well, I wish you all the best in working with more of these people and these
Yeah.
individuals. I'm sure you're going to create more meaningful projects together, because that's the important thing, right? Once you find the group that you like,
Stay with them.
Stay with them,
Stay
man,
with them.
because it's hard. It's just like dating. It's hard once you find someone you like.
It's you
Try to stick
always
around.
need you need to test around, look for who's doing what, how they're
Yes.
doing it, and then you pick out from each little group and you make yourself your own team to rise
Awesome.
in the scales.
And speaking of like working with these people and the fundamental kind of grand experience you've had making this film, what lessons did you experience when making it that like did you learn from that you'll apply for your next one?
Well, the guy that I worked with, Emil,
Yes.
he has been in this industry, in this film school, a year older. This is my first year. It's his second year, so I looked at him like some sort of kid looking at his father. Like I was really getting myself taught by him.
Mentored.
Mentored by him fully, and I think that not trying to be the lead of the group sometimes can be really good for yourself, because you can learn stuff.
Of course.
Looking at other people work, picking out example. Oh yeah, he does something with a sound that I really like. Picking some of his stuff and putting it into my own project can help me become better with my own work. And I think that's what's beautiful about teamwork, is you can lead up to some great stuff with it.
Yeah, kind of like you're saying, learning from the strengths of the individuals you work with, being mentored by them, and applying them
can be so helpful
to improve yourself for the next project. Yeah, that's smart, man.
I've done it many times and it's worked.
That's awesome, buddy. Well, I'm so happy at such a young, tender age of 18 that you're mature enough to realize, areas of improvement, and have the humility to change them. That's awesome, man. Good on you. Yeah. Navigating, the fluctuating career of a filmmaker and exploring the endless obstacles that the industry unapologetically seems to offer, one can find it incredibly uneasy to remain creatively stimulated. Something I suffer from a lot. But nevertheless, I took it upon myself to develop other creative outlets, including this podcast, my streetwear clothing line, and a nostalgic kind of hand drawings that I've done mostly in the pandemic to kind of kill the boredom. I want to know, like, what other creative endeavors have you explored aside from filmmaking? And if not that endeavor, what do you desire to do instead?
When I entered CJEP, which is it's a like school, and it's a level in school before university in Quebec.
Oh, right.
It's 2 years. It's like a pre-university programs.
I heard about this. Yeah.
And I first started into video game programming. That's what I did. I used to think that it was my future, so I would create video games for classes, and it was fun. But I had this one class that was about shooting videos. Like we had to shoot a short movie about sports, 5 minutes. And this is what originally made me spark about, I want to go into more towards the filmmaking industry. And that is one of the first things that made me realize, really, I love this stuff more than what I thought would be my future, if I could say.
Yeah.
So why not fully lean into it and go into the program I am in now, which is it's cinema. So, and it was to this day one of the best decisions of my life. I fully think that going from, and this whole video game programming stuff taught me a lot. It made me really good on the whole editing with Premiere Pro, After Effects, and everything. It helps me with my movies a lot. So I tend to, for fun, I still do create video games, small video games as a hobby for fun, and that's one of the.
That's really cool, man. Yeah.
Some other, I don't have other stuff. I would like I would love to start shooting videos. I have a lot of friends that have music that produce music, and producing videos for them could be an idea that I would look into.
That's awesome, man. Well, I really like the idea that you studied video game programming, because video games, again, is another form of storytelling. Seeing how much sophistication it's kind of endured over the years. PlayStation being my favorite. Just look at the slate of titles for the PlayStation 5, current and upcoming. It's just mind blowing, the craftsmanship that's been implemented. And yes, of course, you're going to understand storytelling because the structures that's implemented into video games, the cohesive, the high quality ones, is what comes about, right? You got The Last of Us. I don't know if you're watching the TV show.
I watched the TV show.
Yeah, like
so good.
It doesn't even in a way need a TV show. I love the TV show, by the way, but it doesn't even need a TV show because
it never needed
watch. But I'm saying if you just watch the cutscenes, right? Like it doesn't even need an adaptation.
It's definitely, I've played a lot of video games my whole life. Right. I'm a huge fan of them, and the games that I love the most are the ones that tell a story. It always puts you, whether it's like fully out of this world, like for example, God of War.
Yes,
it isn't usual. You're never going to see this in your life. A huge snake appear out of the water, but it tells you a story about a father and a son trying to go up together, trying to do things together. And I feel like that's what makes the game more like beautiful in itself. Because
any story
exactly. And The Last of Us was probably one of the best storytelling video games ever, in my opinion.
Of course. And yeah, what I was trying to say is like any story, like you were saying about God of War, Last of Us, Horizon Zero Dawn, like any story that you mentioned, at its core, there's always a simplicity to it, right? Like God of War, you pull it apart, it's just basically a father and a son trying to find their way in the world. You know what I mean? And trying to find meaning in their relationships after the death of the mother. Right?
It's something that starts from this and just expands.
But I'm saying but I'm saying the best stories, it's been proven, right? Like it's a science behind it. You strip everything away, right? All the fancy visual effects,
and it's this tiny thing,
and it's just literally like the most simplistic thing, like a man trying to find love.
Yeah. So
like,
this simple idea can turn into either the best movie ever or the craziest video game ever.
Yeah, like The Last of Us is essentially like a man trying to overcome the grief of his daughter. You know what I mean? That's the whole story, right? And don't want to spoil anything, but that's why certain events play out and there's an arc right at the end. But I love that. I love that we're on the same page, and I love that you had the opportunity and the experience to kind of pursue video game developing. We don't have that in Ontario. It's kind of a disservice to us because it doesn't give us that break. No, I'm serious, because we thrust right into university, like got to know what we want.
I feel like CGIP helps a lot of people in Montreal find their way, because you can also change programs. Like, for example, I was studying video game programming and I realized this might not be the thing I want to do. And automatically in a click, I can just switch, and then the next semester I start studying cinema and the whole filmmaking industries and everything. And this helps a lot of people in Montreal find their way and find what they really want to do.
And that's awesome. This program, like, you know what I mean? Like you were saying, you don't have to pursue video game developing for the next 4 years when you graduate.
Exactly.
It's just a means of getting that credential. Correct? Yeah.
And after that, even if you've studied this whole video game programming for the 3 years of its program, you're not forced to go into this in university. You can fully change. And again, that's what's so cool about this education system, is it really lets you be what you want and how you want.
That's awesome, man. And speaking of these creative endeavors and your fondness of exploring these paths, the opportunities of video game programming aside from filmmaking, how do you handle the sometimes daunting sensation of burning out?
What I do when I feel like everything's too much and I'm tired of doing anything is I stop. Like, I try, the best thing I do to stop thinking about it is I go out, I play sport, I go to the gym, anything like this. I love the outdoors.
That's awesome.
And being outside, just taking a walk can clear my mind so fast. And then I try to concentrate and start all over. And I feel like being outside, breathing fresh air can help a lot of people.
Yeah, I love that you encourage that lifestyle, a fitness, active lifestyle. That's something that I preach as well. Early in the morning, go for a walk. It's winter now; it's hard to do, but
yeah,
I can't at the moment go to the gym for certain reasons. But when I get back into it, I know it'll lift my spirits up, right? Because it helps with everything.
It helps with so much stuff. It helps with your own mental health, your own physical health, and also organization and everything.
clears your mind, man, right? Like,
yes,
I've had days where I wake up with anxiety because I'm overwhelmed, right? My legs are actually shaking, like physically. And I go to the gym, I do a session for an hour, and I come home and anxiety's still there
it
in a way,
feels,
right? It doesn't
but
clear my responsibilities, but
if you feel
clears the
lighter in a certain
sensation.
way,
Yeah, I don't
it
feel it.
helps a lot. It helps
Yeah.
a lot.
100%. Well, I love that you're finding healthy matters, healthy coping mechanisms, I should say, instead of it saying something like, no, I just love to go to McDonald's and like, muck a burger, like, which it's okay to do sometimes.
Exactly. It's okay. People have their own ways. I've had people tell me that they love to read a book, but it's not for me. I'm not like, I know that
I'm like that too, actually. Yeah.
won't make me less stressed or have that less feeling of like being in a burnout. As my way might not be the same for other people, and that's fully okay. I feel like people have to find their own thing that works for them.
And you might change too, right? Like, for example, the
Yeah.
whole aspect about reading the books, right? Like, I'm just saying, speaking from experience, when I was 18, like, I hated reading, and I still find it like hard to do because my mind wanders.
It helps a lot, and
but
it's been
the
proven
discipline, what I'm saying, right? If you just push it, that's what I did in the pandemic. I was so bored, as you know, the pandemic, everyone's went through the woes of it. You're confined to your house. What do you do, right? You can only play video games for so long. Well, some people could argue you can play indefinitely, but for me, I could only play for so long. I was getting really bored and I was getting a headache. But I would end up picking a book. I read the whole Harry Potter series because I never read the Harry Potter series. Yeah. And I just disciplined myself for like 6 months. It took a long time to read, but again, 20 pages a day, man, you'll knock it out of the park, right? But what I'm saying is you can't dictate to people like how to cope. They have to find them naturally. And what I'm saying is you never know for yourself is in 5 years, you pick up a book and you say, this is really interesting, looking forward to next. And then you find, oh, this is a habit that I like to pick up.
Exactly.
Stress, right?
It's something that can happen like this, but it might never. And it's you can't expect something like this to happen. You have to let it come to you. You can try, you can always try, but if you force yourself into something, it won't be the same as itself naturally happening to you.
Absolutely, man. Well, I just really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you and just kind of learn more about your experiences and how you've kind of made this career work for yourself. You know what I mean? Cultivated this brand, this storytelling passion. But before we go, I want to know, like, what creative project are you pursuing next, or do you desire to pursue? Yeah.
Well, as we spoke at the beginning of this podcast, I was writing a new scenario for
now, is this a treatment? Like, this is just this is not the actual story, or you've been started writing the script?
I started writing the script slowly.
Nice.
And I'm gonna start looking into a location where to do my actors and everything. And it's the main project that I'm trying to make it real.
Is this funding, or like, are you doing indie like right now?
Right now I have no funding. I do it all myself. I take my equipment out of my our school program allows us a lot of equipment, and
because you're in film school, right?
Just
to clarify? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it allows us so much like equipment, anything we want, we can get it. And that's the advantage, man. It's such a cool advantage. And I have contacts in people that work.
I was gonna say, so like location scout, that's what I was gonna ask you. Like, in terms of finding locations, like, you have the resources to do it.
I know I have the resources to find my location. If I need some piece of material, I can contact people and I can get what I want. So I know myself around in a way that I can't stress about not finding something or not having something to realize what I'm trying to do.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm really proud of you, man. Like, you're keeping at it. Yeah, no, I'm serious. Like, you're a young kid, but you're very mature for your age. And I like that you have the hustle mentality. I said that from the beginning. It's important to keep disciplined, keep tenacious, and never forget why you started this in the first place, right? Yeah. And if you keep that head on your shoulders, it'll take you very far. So I'm looking forward to seeing more projects from you, and connecting further on this podcast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a really great opportunity, and I can't thank Tyler enough to have connected us.
To each other. Tyler Seller, my boy.
Yes. And it was a really great opportunity. Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you, Theo, for coming on to the podcast, explaining your journey as a filmmaker, your experiences, how to become a better storyteller. I really appreciate everybody for listening, and we'll talk soon.